Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from skiessentials.com. This ski right next to me is pretty darn exciting. This is our first 2022 ski review. Bob's over there nodding his head because that's a fun thing to say, 2022. Yeah, this is the brand new M6 Mantra from Volkl. It's really cool, you know, in a lot of ways it's a very similar ski to the M5 Mantra, but they did make some changes to it that I think definitely improved the way it skis. We've had a few test days on them now, and I just think the engineering behind the changes is really, really cool. So I'll leave you with some skiing footage for now, and then we'll talk again in the studio. I kind of want to line one up and look at changes from last year and differences between last year's and this year, and then we'll talk more about performance and stuff like that. So yeah, brand new ski from Volkl, super exciting, and Happy New Year. 2022. Damn. Got a little bit of a window here. Hey skiers, back here in the studio to talk more about these M6 Mantras. Pretty darn exciting. We had another test morning on them today. We've had some really cool light here in Stowe recently, a lot of like cloud inversions and stuff, so pretty cool to be up there today. Put another skier on them. We've had like, gosh, we've probably had 10 people on these skis in the past 3 weeks or so. I personally have had like 3 or 4 days on them. And really cool skis. So let's talk about some of those changes that I mentioned in the intro. Really cool engineering behind these skis. It's always fascinating when a company goes back to the drawing board to kind of improve upon a ski that's really, really good. Something that came to mind with these skis is like, it feels very similar to a couple other brands that kind of tweaked a popular ski recently. Both Nordica and Blizzard tweaked the Enforcer 100 and the Bonafide, which are both competitors to this M5 Mantra or M6 Mantra. So I draw a lot of similarities to the tweaks to this ski to the tweaks to that ski. They're not like drastically changing it. They're basically retaining everything that was good about the previous ski and just making it a little bit better. So some of the stuff we anticipated, or really one of these technologies we anticipated. The other two were more of a surprise. So let's start with the thing that we anticipated, and that is Volkl's 3D radius. So we've talked about it a lot. We probably have even mentioned that we expected to see it on the next generation of the Mantra, but Volkl's 3D radius showed up basically the year after the M5 Mantra did. And it's utilizing longer radii in the tips and tails and a shorter radius underfoot. We see it in skis like the Kendo 88, it's in the Deacon 84, and then it's like really pronounced in skis like the Blaze 106. And we've talked about it in reference to the Blaze 106, how like the long radii in the tips and tails give it a very surfy feel, and then the shorter radius allows you to kind of flex it into a more traditional turn. And that kind of carries over into this ski. It's not as pronounced as we see in the Blaze, but it's definitely there. So the previous ski, this 177 M5 Mantra, had a 19.8 meter turn radius. That was the single radius for the ski. This new version in 177 is, it's 30, 18, 24. So 30 meters in the tip, 18 underfoot, 24 in the tail. So everything that we've talked about with 3D radius, and we'll get to this when we talk about performance, all those benefits carry over to this new ski. And I think it works really well in general with this construction. You know, the way that Volkl builds these skis by positioning the metal along the edges and the forebody and the tail of the ski, but allowing a more natural flex underfoot. It really kind of, the two technologies kind of work hand in hand. They support each other, and the result is really cool. So we expected to see that in this new Mantra. The things that we didn't necessarily expect to see are Volkl's new tailored technologies. So we get tailored titanal frame and we get tailored carbon tip. Tailored titanal frame is pretty darn cool. Simply, they took some metal out of the tip of the ski. So if you're to compare M5 Mantra to M6 Mantra, the metal frame, especially just right in the end of the ski, or only right in the end of the ski, and in the tail as well, they basically made it a little thinner, or a little narrower rather. It's the same thickness metal, but there's less of it. So taking some swing weight out of the tip of the ski. And what makes it tailored is it changes per length. So this is kind of similar to, or at least reminds me of what Blizzard's doing with their True Blend wood core. Basically the engineers at Volkl are looking for ways to kind of custom tweak the performance for each length of the ski, which I think is really cool, and I think something that we'll probably see work its way into more and more brands in the ski industry. So take this 184, take the 184 and the 177 M6 Mantra. This 184 has a longer, thicker part of the metal. You know, essentially this portion is very similar, but this portion is longer. And, you know, without measuring, I would say you get an extra 2 inches of the kind of wider metal on this longer ski. So the idea is to custom tailor the performance and the flex pattern of each length to work better with the skier who would be choosing that length. So traditionally or historically, sometimes what would happen in ski construction is the shorter lengths would actually be stiffer. Just if you think about like the physics behind, like if you took a sheet of wood, like a wood core, same thickness, the longer version of that wood core, you'd be able to bend it more easily. So this is kind of the manufacturer's way of counteracting that and making sure that the skis are performing correctly for the person who's choosing that ski. So, you know, a skier that would choose the 184 is likely bigger than the skier that would choose the 177. Thus, the ski can be a little stiffer, a little harder to flex, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So really cool, tailored titanal frame. I like the way that there's kind of 2 benefits to that. 1, lower swing weight in the tips and tails. 2, the length should work better for your size. And then the last technology, the third technology, the second tailored technology is tailored carbon tip. So in the previous ski, we had just a sheet of carbon up here in the tip, a unilateral sheet of carbon. Now we get this kind of crisscrossing or cross-hatching weave of carbon, these strips of carbon that are basically specifically engineered to provide different amounts of torsional stiffness. So Volkl is going to use this technology in a bunch of different skis. At least we expect them to use it in a bunch of different skis. And they have some videos kind of showing how it works and how they would be able to tweak it into different ski designs. You know, if you wanted a more longitudinal stiffness, you could position these more in a longitudinal axis, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's basically a new concept that's allowing Volkl to kind of specifically engineer the amount of torsional stiffness in the tip. And in this application in particular, they wanted to retain good torsional stiffness up here, while still being able to take the weight out and take the metal out and keep the weight down rather. So those are the major changes to the M6 Mantra compared to the M5 Mantra. You know, I think largely they're very, very similar skis. It's very similar shape. You know, if you were just to glance at them, it's clearly the new generation of the same ski. You know, it's not like when we went from what would have been the M4 Mantra, although no one really called it the M4 Mantra, but that ski to the M5, that was a significantly different ski. That was a that marked a fundamental change in the ski's design, the ski's intended feel and stuff like that. This is a more subtle change, but the result in performance is really, really cool. So what makes the Mantra great? You know, what is this ski all about? It's about precision, it's about stability, it's about responsiveness, it's about performing well and responding well to an advanced and expert level skier, somebody who's going to ski fast and hard and aggressively, but also ski different terrain. You know, you're probably going to take the ski off trail from time to time. Just because if you're choosing this width, chances are you're going to be skiing something other than just a groomer. So it's achieving that high level of carving performance, high level of precision and responsiveness and edge grip while still being a relatively versatile ski. So all of that stuff carries over to this new Mantra. They did a really good job of retaining what was already great about it. And to me, that the highlighting characteristic of this ski has always been its precision. You know, among a big group of skis, you know, when we do the comparison articles on this width range, there's a lot of skis up here. Among that group of skis, I've always thought that this is one of the most precise skis. That carries over, you know, by retaining the multi-layer wood core, the titanal frame, you know, it's not like a banana rockered ski or anything like that. It's still very precise, very responsive, still feels like a Mantra. It still is strong, stable, all that stuff. These changes just make it, they just make it better. You know, that sounds like a really kind of, like a bit of a cop-out in the way to describe the ski, but you know, in talking to everybody in our staff who's been on it and people outside our company who's been on it, just objectively, it's a better ski. And why is that? So I think a big reason for that is the 3D radius. At least for me as a skier, I really feel like they come across the fall line more naturally. You know, it's a 1.8 meter difference in that 177, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it does feel different. They feel quicker. They feel like they come across the fall line more easily, or at least someone at my weight, I'm able to get there more easily. You know, and I think having the shorter radius underfoot really helps, because instead of forcing somebody like me to really just flex the ski into a shorter radius turn, it's already kind of designed to do that, which I think is cool. And I think there are a lot of benefits to that. You know, on a steeper slope, it's allowing you more speed control. You know, the ski is going to feel like it's coming back uphill more than it used to. So you can retain, you know, just stay in true carves without feeling like the ski is just running away from you. I think that's a benefit to it. And I also think they perform better at slower speeds, at flatter terrain. You know, there are skis out there that require more speed, but I've always thought that the M5 Mantra was at least among that category, at least in that discussion of skis that felt like they came alive more at higher speeds. This ski still loves to go fast, but I do think it performs noticeably better at slower speeds too. Now, the other benefit to that 3D radius, you know, I think we brought some other stuff in there and started with 3D radius, but to me, the other benefit of that 3D radius is the fact that the tips and the tails don't feel as catchy. So this is something that I've talked about quite a bit on this channel. If you put a longer radius into the tips and tails of a ski, it's going to feel more surfy. There's a couple different ways to achieve easier edge release. One is throw a ton of rocker into the ski. The other is lengthen the turn radius. Basically, a ski with, you know, extended tips and tails and a shorter turn radius, it's always going to feel like it wants to hook up. Skis like that can feel twitchy, can feel nervous, and stuff like that. I don't necessarily think the M5 Mantra felt like really twitchy, but I do feel like it was harder to pivot and slip and smear than this new version. So when you combine those two characteristics, the fact that it'll enter a shorter radius carving turn more easily, and also that you can release the tail edge specifically, but release the edge more easily, it gives the ski a quicker, more lively, more playful feel. And I do think that's noticeable, which is really pretty commendable to Volkl, because they didn't change the shape of the ski drastically. They just, these subtle changes, which really, they all add up to a ski that just feels quicker. It's still, you know, if you want to make like bigger radius sweeping turns, it still does that just fine. It's still perfectly composed at speed. It's still stable at speed. And because there's bigger radii in the tips and the tails, if you just kind of ski in a more centered, balanced position and just sort of ride the ski, it still makes like really big turns. In fact, I think you could argue that you could probably make a bigger carving turn on it than the previous ski, but you can also make a smaller radius carving turn too, and you can release the edges and get it to slip and smear more easily. So yeah, I just think it's really cool what they've done to this ski. They've retained all that precision and that power and that responsiveness, but made it more playful. Something that really kind of jumped out to me is this morning we skied with a local skier named Christy, who's very, very good at skiing, racing background. She's been with Volkl for a long time as like an athlete ambassador type position. She normally skis something like a 170 Secret. I had her test the 177 M6 Mantra this morning, and watching her, you know, a lighter weight skier, kind of similar to myself in a lot of ways, watching how she could manipulate the ski was really cool. And she was doing so on some flatter trails than you might think capable. So yeah, it's just a livelier ski. It's more playful, it's quicker, and it's livelier. I also think it's a little bit more forgiving because of the longer radius in the tips and tails. If you're in softer snow conditions or technical terrain, like tight terrain like trees or anything like that, unfortunately we don't have like a ton of snow in Vermont right now, so we weren't really able to bring it into really tight technical trees that we have here in Vermont. But in that application, I do think it's going to feel more forgiving and just easier in general. And a lot of that comes down to you know, the lighter swing weight too. It's the longer radius in the tips and the tails, they're not going to feel as catchy, and then the lighter swing weight, it's less fatiguing, a little easier to throw side to side. So yeah, really cool ski, and I think those are the changes that the Mantra kind of needed. Like this, I mean, they hit the ball out of the park when they redesigned the Mantra and turned it into this M5 Mantra. So it was kind of like begging the question, like, what are they going to do to change it and make it better? But yeah, they made it livelier, they made it more playful, and they made it just a touch more forgiving without taking away all the things that make it the Mantra. And I think that's really important, because if they had drastically changed this ski, they would have disappointed a lot of people. And I personally don't think that's the case. I think anybody that liked the M5 Mantra is going to love the M6 Mantra. I also think people that, you know, maybe you thought the Mantra was like a little too focused on one turn shape or one type of performance, I think skiers like that should get on it again, and they might find that even though they didn't change the ski drastically, I do think it feels more playful, which a lot of skiers are going to like. So yeah, let us know if you have any questions. We have had people that have been on different lengths of it, so if you want specific kind of anecdotal information about like, hey, how did you feel on the 177 versus the 184, let us know, and we'd love to talk more about it. I feel like I could talk about the ski all afternoon, but I'm not going to do so we don't have like a 3-hour long video. But yeah, I mean, great job, Volkl. Pretty psyched to be talking about 2022 skis, and I'm really excited that the first one is one with, you know, some technology that we haven't really seen before. We haven't really seen this application of carbon, or specifically this use of carbon in the tip. And I think the tweaks to the titanal frame were really cool too, and the way that they're changing that based on length is really cool. You know, I think these are valuable changes to the Mantra, and I'd just say great job, Volkl. You know, you took a ski that was really good and you made it better, and that's a really hard thing to do, and it can be a daunting task and something kind of scary for ski manufacturers when you take a ski that's already really good and try and change it. So let us know if you have any questions about the M6 Mantra. We'll continue to ski it, continue to test more skis, and hopefully we talk to you soon.